you're thinking about starting a drone business in 2024, this video is for you. My name is David Young. I'm the founder of Drone Launch Academy. I've interviewed over 60 different successful drone entrepreneurs and have talked to thousands more casually. And in this video, I'm going to distill my top tips and what has worked for people who have successfully started drone businesses, going anywhere from $1,000 a month all the way up to 6 figures per year. So let's get into it. Before we start, I just want to give a disclaimer. If you want to do commercial drone work in the United States, you need something called a remote pilot certificate, often called a Part 107 license. And if you want to know how to get that, we created a very detailed video. I'll put a link up top. You can click that. We walk you through all the steps of how to get that license. But once you have that, you can come back here and watch this video. So assuming you have that Part 107 license, I want to clear up one misconception. I see a lot of drone pilots that go out, they get that license, they get a drone, and they think,
man, I'm a licensed drone pilot. I'm going to go make a bunch of money.
And in reality, it doesn't work that way at all. I don't want to burst your bubble. I just want to be real with you. Just like any business, people don't just randomly hire you because you have a college degree or a CPA license or you're a licensed general contractor. Just because you have those licenses or certifications is just step one to get into the field and doesn't guarantee any type of success doing the work or getting clients. But here's what I've learned after doing 6 seasons of the Drone to 1K podcast, where I interview some of the most successful drone entrepreneurs that are out there. So the first thing to understand when thinking about a drone business is the value creation circle, I call it. A lot of people, they just focus on flying the drone, skills behind the sticks, whatever you want to call it. They think if they can fly the drone and they're good at that, then they'll be good at everything. And really, having a successful drone business is more about the business part than it is about the drone. The drone is just a tool to solve some other type of problem. So let me show you the value creation circle that, at least in my head, makes sense. So really, there are 6 steps to it. Number 1 is you have to understand a specific client or customer's problem and industry. You have to know what they care about in their business, what pains they have, things that you can actually help them with. People don't care that you have a drone. They just care that you can help them solve some type of issue or problem that they have. Number 2, you actually have to go out and find those clients that have those problems that you can help with, right? So that's marketing. Number 3 is that you actually have to build trust with those clients and convince them to hire you and work with you. That's sales. Number 4 is actually capturing the data. So that's putting the drone in the air, flying it, whether you're getting some type of video, you're doing photos, you're doing some type of mapping work with automation, you're capturing data or collecting information. That's step 4, and that's what most people think about when they think, oh, I'm going to go do a drone business, right? I'm going to go fly my drone. That's the actual capturing of the information. Then step 5 is when you take all that information, you bring it back to the office, and whether you're doing something for like video production, you're going to have to edit that video, or if you're doing real estate pictures, you're going to have to edit those pictures. If you're doing mapping, you're going to have to go process all those photos to create your map and model, maybe do some analysis, right? So there is the actual office work of creating something out of that data that you captured. So that's step 5. And step 6 is actually delivering it to the client, making sure it's what they want, all the back and forth communication, making sure that they're happy with it. There's going to be a lot that goes into that piece as well. So the 6 steps, all the way from understanding the customer, finding the customer, convincing them to work with you, doing the work, processing the data or editing the videos, delivering to the client, making sure they're happy, and then repeat it all over again. And at each one of these stages, there's more and more value created for you. So if you can do all 6 of these steps, you're going to be capturing all of the value. But if you outsource any one of these steps, you're going to have to pay someone else to do it. Or if you jump into one of these networks that we're going to talk about in a minute, they're going to pay you a lot less than you might think because you're just doing one little sliver of this whole value creation process. So again, most pilots think that they only need to be good at number 4, flying the drone, but you really need to be good at all that stuff, running the business and getting those clients in order to succeed with your drone business. And we're going to dive into how to tangibly do that here in this video in these next steps. So this leads me to my first point. What I would do, step 1, is if I was starting a drone business today in 2024, is I would do something that I call getting paid to practice. Now, there are a number of drone job networks out there. There used to be one called DroneBase. They changed their name to ZiteView. And there are a whole bunch of other ones you could sign up for that are in different niches. And what they essentially do is they go out, they find clients, they sign them up, and then they need drone pilots to actually go out there and collect the data. So they hire you as a subcontractor to go out, fly. They usually have some specific shot list or requirements that they want you to meet. Then you just send the information back to them, and they usually take it from there. They process the map, or they edit the video, or they do whatever else it is, and they deliver it to the client. So out of these 6+ steps that you're going to have, they're hiring you for one little sliver. So a lot of times, drone pilots, they go sign up for these networks, and then they get hired for these jobs, and they're like offended. Oh, I can't believe they're only going to pay me $100 for this, or whatever low price it is. But whatever thing they've negotiated with their client, they have marketing budgets, salespeople, people doing editing, people doing customer success. So there's this whole wheel, right? That you're just one little cog in the entire machine. But the benefit of this is at the very beginning, you can jump in and start getting paid to fly your drone, even if it's not much. So I tell people get paid to practice, because generally you don't have to have the most skills in the world to do this. You can sign up, start seeing if there's any jobs in your area, and then you can go out and you can just start flying. And then you're gonna get paid to go out there and practice and start building your portfolio and your experience. So don't count on this for a long-term, I'm gonna build my whole business off of this type of thing, but view it as I'm going out there and practice, and I might get paid for it in the meantime. So while you're doing that thing of getting paid to practice, getting experience, building your portfolio of work, what you can start doing is working on steps 1 through 3 of that value creation process, which is understanding a customer and a problem, and then getting used to marketing and sales and how to talk to people. So how are we going to do that? Well, for most people, they just need to get over their fear of talking to strangers. Once you realize that most people are just normal people and no one's going to hate you for just talking to them out of the blue, it's really not that bad. So we have a course that helps people start and build drone businesses. And what we tell people to do at this stage of the game is we just say, hey, listen, right at the beginning of the course, we just want you to call someone you don't know out of the blue and introduce yourself to them. You don't have to ask them for business. You don't have to do anything like that. Just break the shell of I'm scared to talk to people and just go get your feet wet, calling someone you don't know, get through those nervous butterflies. And the more you do it, the easier it gets. And the more you'll sort of adapt what it is that you say, and you know how to say something to someone. But I found it helps people if I give them some type of script template so they're not coming up with something on their own. Because you call someone who doesn't know you and they're like, hello, and you're like, hi, this is David. You just sound like a moron. So this is the script template we give people to try out, and it's worked well. Nothing revolutionary. It's something like, hi, Susie. This is David. I just wanted to give you a call to introduce myself. I'm going to be offering some whatever kind of services, some drone services in the construction space in the near future. And I'm just calling around trying to make some connections and get to know a few people. That's it. And they might say, oh, okay, cool. Well, what can I help you with? And you could say, hey, I'm just wondering, do you guys use drones now? And just start asking them questions that you're curious. Oh, tell me about what it's like on your job site. Now, you don't want to waste their time and ask just kind of off the wall random questions, but try to just have a normal human conversation with them. And it usually goes better than you think. So in that same course I told you about, once we have students do this, we have them report their results back to us. And I just went in and I looked at a few on how these went. And I don't think I saw any where it was like, oh, this was awful. This person screamed at me and hung up on me. The majority of them sounded something like this. They said, they didn't hang up on me. I let them know I was getting into drones and real estate game and wanted to see if it was something that realty businesses in the area were using. They gave me some really helpful information. I hope the call pushes this business into the top of my pyramid for those wanting to utilize the service. We talk about a little pyramid of your potential customers, really, because you're going to talk to a lot of people out there, but only a certain small percentage are going to be ready and willing to work with you right now, and the rest of them are going to require some type of cultivation. So that's what they're talking about with the pyramid. Number 2, person said, call went really well. She was very receptive and is interested in the mapping aspect and real estate photos of large swaths of land that she has for sale. And remember, the goal of this call isn't to get a customer or anything. It's just, hey, I'm just going to call and introduce myself to someone and get used to talking to a stranger. And the third one I pulled said, the call went magnificent. She was very receptive and she did not hang up on me. She didn't need any aerial photos, but I gave her my contact info and she would call me if something came up. I felt great. I was not nervous at all. Just another conversation with a potential client. So it's really not going to be bad as you think. This is a really good practice to do. So I would recommend at least once a week. If you can do once a day, just call someone new in your industry and just give them that line. Worst case scenario, they go, don't bother me right now. Say, oh, hey, no worries. I understand if you're busy. See you later. Because you don't care. There's nothing in it for you. You're just trying to practice. So do that once a day, once a week. It will go a long, long way in helping you build a business into the future. I promise you. All right, here's the next thing I would do. Once I've done paid to practice, and then I've gone out and got out of my comfort zone and contacted a stranger or many strangers, the third thing I would start to do is really, really focus on picking a niche, honing down on a specific industry. I see this a lot, and I think this really hurts people is they go, ooh, I don't want to miss out on any specific clients, so I'm just going to say that I offer everything. I work with construction, I do real estate, I do surveying, I do weddings, I do this. And you just look like you kind of don't have a focus and don't know what you're doing. So when someone from that industry who is a serious person is looking, has a problem that you could help with, and they're looking around, they're going to go, oh, they don't really specialize in what I need. They're just more of kind of like spray and pray, and they're not going to select you over someone else who says, hey, I specifically serve these types of clients with these types of problems. Try to pick a niche. And let me tell you about a couple niches or niches, depending on how you want to pronounce it, that are popular right now that are good for drone pilots to get into, and some tips that I would give on getting into these niches. And remember, the reason for getting into the niche is that you can really thoroughly understand the problems of the clients that you're working with. It's impossible to really fully understand their problems and speak to those specifically if you're trying to serve every single industry out there. So let's talk about real estate for an example. I know real estate's a common one that comes up in people's minds when they think about drones. And there's a lot of different opinions on real estate photography. And I will say, if you're only wanting to do drones and you're focusing on real estate, that might be tough. The real estate agents that I've seen, they want someone who can do it all. So if you want to go into the real estate area, I would recommend learning how to do the ground cameras, maybe some video work, floor plans. If you know how to operate a camera on a drone, the concepts are the same for the ground, but there are some few key elements to real estate photography that are very easy to learn, that you can learn to do quality work. So I would recommend just doing the whole thing. But let's say you're diving into real estate. You're going, cool, I want to understand all the problems of real estate agents. And I just listed one, right? They don't want to go to a bunch of different vendors just to get photos for a listing, right? So being an all-in-one, one-stop shop is going to be an asset for them that solves one of their problems. The second problem or thing that they want is they want more listings. They want more clients. And what attracts clients to them is, if I'm looking for a real estate agent and I'm looking for someone to pick, I'm going to go look at other listings they've done and see what they look like. How much effort did they put into them? How quickly did they sell? All those types of things. So the drone photos, the videos, floor plans makes those agents look better to future people looking to list their home. This is what I've heard from agents, and this is what I've heard from real estate photographers and drone pilots that do this work with real estate agents. That's what they care about. So you can say, hey, listen, if you work with me, my goal is to help you get more listings by looking better to potential people selling their home. There's also some data around the fact that if a home has drone photos with it or has video tours, that it sells faster on the MLS. So you can hit them on both sides. Hey, the homes are proven to sell faster, and you will get more listings because people are going to be attracted to you because of the marketing that you do with your homes. It'll give you content for your social media, and I'm a one-stop shop and can do it all. If you can give them that pitch and you're reasonably priced, I guarantee you will start to get some business. The people that whine about the real estate industry is because they only do a little bit of those things, or they end up working with agents who don't really value that stuff, and that will happen. You just have to kind of move on. But typically when you get keyed into a few agents that use you for every job and are a good stable of work, you'll get a collection of those and you can do really, really well. I know many people in the real estate photography, video, drone game who do six figures consistently every single year. So all the naysayers out there who say, I hate working with real estate and doing that, they just haven't found the right client mix, and it is possible to do well in that if you stick with it. It's also possible to have a horrible time if you are not hitting on these key things. So again, that's what I would focus on the problems of that customer. Let's switch to a completely different industry. Let's go construction, right? Construction is not like, oh, I'm going to go get you more listings. Like, what? Totally different set of problems. There are construction managers, there are superintendents, there are investors, there are general contractors, subcontractors, so many people involved in the construction process of building like a commercial construction project. So as I've learned more about the construction industry over the years, and I've talked to people who are survey managers at large construction companies, I've talked to people who do drone work and mapping work for big construction companies. And here are some of the key benefits and the key problems that are solved through this area. Number one is you have a lot of stakeholders, right? Like I said, you got subcontractors, investors, all these different people that want to know what's the status of certain things on the job site at given times. So construction progress update photos, videos, and maps are pretty common products now on any large scale construction project. So they can say, hey, every 2 weeks, we send updated videos, pictures, and a detailed map of the project to our investment team and our management team somewhere else, or the architects, right? Some type of stakeholder. So that's one, construction project updates. Another one is just inventory management and control. You can settle a lot of disputes on what work was done, wasn't done, what materials were delivered or not delivered, if you have regular documentation of the work site, getting a full map. I have so many different stories and use cases I've heard of where someone says, hey, we don't think you moved as much dirt as you said you moved. It's like, well, hey, you know what? We were getting 3D models of this pile of dirt every week, so we can prove from this date to this date, here's how much dirt was moved because here's the change in volume. And boom, a potentially six-figure or $1 million dispute was settled right there. Another one, a roofing contractor or a roofing supplier said, hey, we delivered X amount of shingles to you. And they were like, no, you didn't. We didn't get all this material. Well, they had documentation from a drone that could prove on this date, here's how many pallets of this material were delivered and were at the job site. And so it just helps clear a lot of this stuff up. It reduces a lot of headaches. Then more of the surveying and modeling side, there are so many different regulations from OSHA to the EPA that these construction companies have to adhere to. Like every time it rains, they've got to do some rain runoff report to make sure that they aren't getting a bunch of construction debris and other junk into the wells of the city, right? So they have to show that they have effective runoff solutions for the rainwater. So they have to write these reports. And if they had drone maps, if they can see where the water's running off and where things are going. Another one is slopes. So according to OSHA, depending on the steepness, let's say you're building a road, the steepness of the slopes on the side, if it's past a certain degree of angle, they have to have extra supports, or maybe it has to be paved. And so with this mapping, they can check as they're doing the jobs, check all the slopes of all the sides of the roads to make sure that they're in compliance with OSHA regulations. So there's so many things like that where maps, models, photos, videos are helpful in a construction project. But you would never know these specific things if you don't actually go out there and get to know that specific type of customer, right? If you are shooting wedding videos, do you think that someone's going to expect you to know all the ins and outs and problems of someone who's working on a large infrastructure construction project? Probably not, right? So pick one of those areas and lock in and focus in on it. Which leads me to the next thing I'd be doing in 2024 if I was starting a drone business from scratch, which is I would go to where my customers are. Now, I understand it sounds like a pretty generic thing to say, go where your customers are, but I legitimately mean it. I mean, find out where your customers go for their industry stuff. So if you're trying to reach real estate agents, go to local association of realtor conferences and events. As an example, I got a buddy, his business is doing thermal inspections with drones, with handheld cameras to detect moisture, that's getting into commercial buildings.
So he's like, where are my customers, or the people that work with my customers? Where are they?
So he went to a commercial roofing contractor association event, and there he met some building managers that had some problems. And just chatting, getting to know people, being a normal human being. Don't go in there and be all weird and try to start getting business right away and try to be like, well, do you want to work with me? People, they don't like that. Go in there, build genuine relationships, listen. One of the key things you want to do at these events is listen for problems. This is just good advice for any business. So for instance, we started making high school drone curriculum. That's a new thing we added on. But I was like, well, I don't really know the problems of teachers, of principals, of all these other people who are going to be our customers, right? Like I knew a lot of the problems of drone pilots, but I didn't know of these other newer category. So I started going to events, conferences. And guess what? You'll see what the conference schedule is, and you'll see the titles of different breakout sessions. This is what Root Patel does. He'll go to like mining industry conferences, or he wanted to get into working with ports. So he joined some port association, went to their meetings, someplace they hang out. He met the CEO of one of the largest port authorities in the nation, chatted them up. So you literally just have to get around your customers to understand what their problems are and sort of like how they operate in their industry, or else you'll just never be able to speak with them intelligently when you actually do want to go work for them. Because when you sit down with someone and say, hey, I'd like to do business with you, they're like, cool, well, how can you help me? That's really, they don't care about your drone, they don't care about any of that stuff. They're like, cool, you want to use a drone? That's great. How can you use that drone to help me with some problem that I have? That's all they care about. So you need to go to conferences to do that. I'm saying conferences, but if there's other places where they are, by all means go there. If you are looking to do like, a lot of these people just do general stuff, or you want to do marketing videos, let's say, and your customers are going to be small businesses, go to a local chamber of commerce meetup, or go to a BNI, like the Business Networking International group meetings. Get creative, find out where does this person in my industry go to learn things, to network, and literally show up there. And you don't just do it once. I would go to like 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 events during the year. When we decided we were going to start pursuing more curriculum stuff, we said, cool, I'm going to go to just every single school curriculum conference I can find. So I flew all over the country doing that. And obviously, if your travel costs prohibit that, just go to stuff in your local area, or call up some local people that are like that and just say, hey, what are good conferences to go to, or what are good events that I could go to? A lot of them are free, just meetups, things like that. So go where your customers are. It will help you so much more than you think. Talking to potential customers and understanding their world is one of the most important things you can do. And it's a step that a lot of people just skip. I don't know if they just don't think about it, or they're just scared to go do it. You're not even pitching anything. You're just there to absorb, there to learn. And I tell you what, I've been doing it for 6 months now, 8 months on this new area that we're trying to go into with school curriculum, and it's helped tremendously. And then when we get people on calls, one-on-one to say, hey, does this make sense for you? You can learn so much about what they do. So eventually, if you're going to then start pitching people for your service, you could say, hey, can we do a call just to see if I can help you with XYZ, once you identify a problem. And then when you get them on the phone, you're just going to ask them questions. Hey, well, tell me about this. What problems do you have here? Oh, tell me your process for, getting new listings on homes. Oh, does this matter to people? You just ask them questions. The more and more you'll learn, people will just start talking about their problems. No, that doesn't work. Or, yeah, this really sucks when this happens. That's the kind of stuff you want to pick up on. And that's what you really want to double down on helping them fix. The next point I'd hone in on for 2024 is you need to have some type of platform. And when I say platform, you don't need to be a social media influencer, none of that crap. You just need to have a place where you can invite someone from your industry to be a part of and to get to know them. So my favorite one is a podcast, because it's so much easier to invite someone on a podcast than it is to say, hey, can we sit down and chat for an hour so I can just pick your brain? That second one sounds like a waste of time to them. But if you say, hey, I'd like to have you on my podcast where we talk about XYZ topics, I'll repost it. Then they're like, oh, it's positioning them as sort of an expert and someone that's sought out for their, advice and their expertise. And you're going to highlight them and you're going to try to push them out there. Even if you don't have a big audience, people are so much more receptive to being on a podcast or being interviewed for a blog or whatever. So you can have a podcast, you could have a YouTube channel, you could have a podcast that you post onto your YouTube channel, like we do that. You could just straight up, if you are terrified of a camera, you could do just audio podcast. You could do a blog, some combination of all three of those. But something where you're going to be creating some type of information, some type of content, and you're going to be putting it out to the world. And then you're going to go link up with other industry experts to help create that content. So if I were trying to get into the, let's say, commercial real estate market, I wanted to just serve commercial real estate agents and do videos for their listings. Because a lot of times commercial real estate, they want to highlight the area and like the population growth and what businesses are nearby and stuff like that. So they like drones because from a distance, they'll do like a zoom out and they'll say, oh, it's close to this interstate and here's all the businesses nearby. And like, look at this college going in over here, because that's the stuff that matters depending on what type you're going into. So if I was going to target them, I'd say, cool, I'm going to start a podcast all about commercial real estate, not about drones, not about anything, but just I want something that other commercial real estate people are going to want to listen to, because I want them to go, who's this David guy? What is this? Oh, he's talking to this other person. I've heard of them. And you're now associating yourself with them in that world. And again, this is not supposed to be like a commercial about you. You're supposed to just position yourself with these other people so you're now respected and you have some credibility, but also it's a super good learning experience for you. If I was like a commercial real estate, I'm gonna target that. I would start a commercial real estate podcast, maybe in my area. So I might start a podcast that said like Florida Commercial Real Estate Trends Podcast. I don't know, I'm making this up. And then I would pick what's a topic that other commercial real estate brokers or whatever would be interested in hearing about. Oh, maybe you would talk about new developments that are happening, or trends they're seeing in the market, or interest rates, or I don't know, whatever. You come up with some topics. Then you hit up some commercial real estate brokers and say, hey, what's up? My name is David. I run this podcast called Florida Commercial Real Estate Trends. I'd love to get you on. Tell us what you're seeing in that market over there and just kind of what's happening, what's going on. Cool, you get on there and then you start talking about it, and you're just going to have a conversation with them and they'll get to know you. And then the question's going to come up. Oh, so like, what is it that you do? Like off camera, right? Or off after you're done with the podcast. And even if it doesn't come up then, now you have a relationship with that person. You've talked for 30 minutes, 45 minutes. You're going to have them on your podcast. You guys become buddies. And I'll tell you what, this is such a low stakes environment to get to know people. And it's very helpful. It's a great networking tool. This is how we found almost every single Drone Launch Academy instructor. I just genuinely was interested to talk to them. I had them on the podcast. They talked about what they did, and I was like, oh, that's interesting. We formed a relationship, and later I was like, hey, do you want to make a course together? Oh, yeah, that'd be fun. Customers happen this way. Partnerships happen this way. It is such an easy thing to invite someone to. So I highly encourage you to do that. Think through, what is it that my customer would be interested in listening to that also pertains to the niche or the area that I'm looking to go into. It'll help you understand that customer better, build relationships, partnerships, and then, even if the person you're interviewing on the podcast never works with you, they're going to know what you do now. And then if they ever hear someone else, they're going to share that podcast with their friends. Oh, I was on this podcast. Oh, cool. Oh, who is this person? It allows you to have more authority in that space. Not to mention, now you can just throw something on, YouTube. You can throw something on the podcast platforms. You can tell people, oh yeah, check out so-and-so, or oh, I had this person on my podcast. You can also, there's tools like Opus, I think it's Opus Pro. You can take a long form podcast episode, toss it in there. It cuts it up into a bunch of little social media segments for you, like little 30-second, 1-minute clips. Throw that on TikTok, on Instagram, on YouTube Shorts. There are just so many ways that you can easily put this stuff out there and look like you are someone who is in the game, rather than if someone Googles you or looks at you, and nothing comes up. That's a bit of a red flag sometimes for people. But if they Google you, David Young, commercial real estate drone, and now I see, oh, he hosts a podcast. He's talked to all these other successful brokers in the area. His website looks like he actually puts stuff on there. People will take you more seriously. So, and don't just do it so people take you more seriously. The biggest benefit I've found from podcasting or interviewing people for a blog or YouTube or whatever is the networking that comes from it and how much you learn about that industry. So if you don't have some type of platform, you've got to do it. It's really easy. I mean, you can use something like Spotify podcast. I think it used to be Anchor.fm. They're just really simple ways you can record some audio, record some video. Just do a Zoom call, for crying out loud. Record it and then just throw that bad boy on the internet. I'm telling you, don't overcomplicate it. You can do it. So that would be my next piece of advice. Start some type of platform. And finally, last piece of advice. If you were going to do any business, basically ever, and it definitely applies to drone business as well, you have to have some perseverance. Of all the people I know that are doing 6 figures a year or have done 6 figures a year at some point, they did not hit that in their first year. I think most of our instructors who teach, like Dominic Wilkerson with our Real Estate Media Pro course, Root Patel with our mapping course, a few others that are easily in that 6-figure range, it took them 2, 3, 4, 5 years to hit 6 figures. I don't think any of them hit it before year 3. So it's not like,
oh, I'm going to pop my business up and it's just going to explode and I'm going to be rolling in cash.
Like, there's no business like that. Not in my business, not in other people's drone service businesses. It's rare that you see that. And typically those businesses either have like a ton of funding or they grow and they fizzle out. But the vast majority of people who do it successfully for the long term, you're looking at 3 years if you're going at it full time, if you want like a 6-figure business. So just have the correct expectations on the road ahead of you, no matter what you do. It's going to take a lot of work, right? You got to figure out the industry. You got to get an offering that makes sense, that has good, what they call product market fit, which means what you offer is something that the market, aka your customers, actually want and are willing to pay for. And you have a system for finding customers, convincing them to work with you, delivering that product, them being happy, them referring other people. Like, this all takes time, building your brand, having marketing, website, making sure you have people on your team, or if you're doing it yourself, to deliver whatever it is, fly the missions, process the stuff. It just takes time. So have that end goal in mind. Stay motivated, thinking, okay, 3 years, 4 years, it's gonna be worth it. Maybe it's hard now, but just keep persevering. So the longer you can go without seeing results, as long as you know you're doing the right things, taking the right steps, which we've talked about in this video, keep doing that. Even if you're not seeing results, keep at it, keep at it, keep at it. It makes you feel better. Completely unrelated business, right? When we started to go do more in the education side of things, so this is, we're going to sell directly to schools and school districts versus like courses to people. Hey, we have a completely separate curriculum that we made for high school. We hired people and we're doing sales for 6 months, talking to schools, going to conferences, running ads, going to people, 6 months, and we hadn't landed a single contract from cold outreach until 6 months in. And then it was a huge contract. But we had to continue to work for 6 months with basically no results. I mean, we were talking to people were interested, but it's just like all this back and forth, no signed agreements for 6 months. We did have a customer that we had started with originally, and then they had referred someone, which is great, like word of mouth stuff, but no one from our cold outreach efforts for 6 months. And it's now it's growing. So whatever you're going to do, no matter what business you're in, it's going to take time, have perseverance. As long as you know you're doing the right actions and the right steps, you can be confident that it will come to fruition, as long as you can afford to pay all the bills, hang in there, keep having fun. That's why a lot of people aren't successful with entrepreneurship, is because they fizzle out, because they do a lot of work, and they don't see immediate results, and they go, this must not work. People must not want this. This is not going to be successful. But if you look around, are there other people who are successful doing what you want to do? If the answer is yes, then that just means you haven't figured it out yet. That doesn't mean that this doesn't work. Now, if you look around and there are 0 examples of people being successful doing what you want to do, then you might be onto something and be like, hey, listen, the market just doesn't want this thing. And that'd be a good clue to move on to something else. But competition is a good thing, because competition, if they're successful, means that there's a market for that service, product, whatever. So take a look around. There's people who are successful doing what you want to do. Good sign. This means you got to keep pressing, doing the right things for long enough, and it'll pay off. So anyways, I hope this video has been helpful. If you have questions, feel free to hit me up, david@dronelaunchacademy.com. Watch some other videos, in our YouTube channel, trying to put out helpful stuff. I do free trainings, I don't know, once every month or two on different topics, from mapping to Part 107 to drone business. We'll bring people in or talk about students or link up with other experts. Got the Drone to 1K podcast, where all I do is interview successful drone entrepreneurs. As of the time of this recording, we've done 6 seasons. We're gonna start recording for season 7 as well. So check that out. But anyways, leave some comments below. Have you tried drone business? What's worked? What hasn't worked? Let me know. And also check the description down below. I put some resources there, some freebies to download, things like that that may be helpful for you. So thanks again for watching. Take care.